It all starts with the wood. In this case, it was a magnificent slab of walnut. It had been sitting in the corner of my shop for a good long while. It came from a tree that had to come down after a storm. I couldn't bear to see it become firewood, so I had it milled and let it dry, patiently waiting for the right project. This slab was a beast. It was rough, covered in dirt and bark, and about as flat as a mountain range. But it had character. You could see the story of the tree in its swooping grain and the uneven, living edge where the bark once clung. I decided it deserved to be more than just a piece of lumber. It wanted to become a conference table, a place where important, or perhaps gloriously unimportant, decisions would be made. The first job was to get acquainted with that live edge. This is the part of the process where you meet the wood on its own terms. I reached for my trusty draw knife. A draw knife is a simple tool, just a blade with a handle at each end. You pull it toward yourself, peeling away the soft, crumbly bark and the cambium layer underneath. It's a quiet, satisfying job. Shaving by shaving, the true shape of the tree is revealed. You follow the natural dips and curves, deciding what to keep and what to clean up. It's not about imposing your will on the wood, but rather collaborating with it. You're just tidying it up, like helping an old friend get ready for a party. With the edge cleaned, the beautiful pale sapwood stood out against the darker heartwood. This is where the life of the tree was most active, and you can feel that energy. I used a few rasps and a wire brush to get into the little nooks and crannies, cleaning out any remaining debris without sanding away the wood's personality. Many people would take a power sander to this and smooth it into submission, but that felt wrong. The little imperfections, the small bumps and valleys, are what make a live edge piece so special. They are a testament to the tree's journey, and my job was to preserve that history, not erase it for the sake of convenience or a false sense of perfection. Choosing to use only hand tools for this project was a very deliberate decision. It's not because I'm a Luddite. I have a healthy respect for power tools and the time they can save. But for this piece, I wanted the process to be as honest as the wood itself. I wanted to feel the grain direction with my own hands. I wanted to hear the whisper of a sharp plane iron slicing through the fibers. This slower, more intimate method connects you to the work in a way that a screaming router or a roaring sander never can. It turns the act of building into a form of meditation, a slow dance between the maker and the material. This table wasn't about speed, it was about soul. Now came the real workout, flattening the slab. This is the part that tests your patience and your muscles. The slab was cupped and twisted from drying, a common occurrence in a piece this large. My tools for this monumental task were simple: a set of winding sticks to see the twist, a straight edge to find the high spots, and a series of hand planes. I started with my scrub plane, a brutish tool with a curved blade designed to remove a lot of wood quickly. Working across the grain, I hogged off the high corners, the rhythmic thump, thump, thump of the plane echoing in the quiet shop. It's hard, sweaty work, but incredibly rewarding. After the initial rough work with the scrub plane, I switched to my jack plane, and then my long jointer plane. This is a process of refinement. You take finer and finer shavings, checking your progress constantly with the straight edge. The sound changes from a rough chop to a delicate shing as the surface gets flatter. You learn to read the grain, planing downhill to avoid tear out. It took a few days of steady work, flipping the slab and repeating the process on the other side. There were moments of frustration, for sure. But then you take that final pass with a finely set smoothing plane, and the surface gleams. It's a feeling of pure satisfaction that no power tool can replicate. With the top and bottom surfaces flat and parallel, my attention returned to the live edge. The draw knife had done the heavy lifting, but now it was time for finesse. I used a cabinet scraper and various curved rasps to smooth the contours, softening any sharp transitions while preserving the overall natural shape. This is delicate, sculptural work. You run your hands over the edge again and again, feeling for any roughness or awkward bumps. The goal is to make it feel as good as it looks, to create an edge that invites you to touch it. It's a slow, deliberate process, but it's what separates a generic piece of furniture from something truly handmade and personal. Finally, I used sandpaper, but sparingly. I worked my way up through the grits, but only to knock down the fuzz raised by the scrapers. I didn't want to sand away the subtle tool marks that tell the story of how the piece was made. Those faint facets left by a sharp plane or a scraper are part of the character. They are the fingerprints of the craftsman. In a world full of mass-produced sterile surfaces, these small imperfections are a badge of honor. They prove that a human being, not a machine, was here. They whisper of care, attention, and good, honest labor. Atop this magnificent needs a base that is just as honest and sturdy. For this, I chose a simple, strong trestle design. And of course, there would be no metal fasteners, no screws, no nails, no brackets. The entire base would be held together by the wood itself, using traditional mortise and tenon joinery. This is a method that has been trusted for centuries, and for good reason. When done right, it creates a joint that is stronger than the wood around it. It's a testament to the simple, brilliant engineering of our woodworking ancestors, and I was happy to follow in their footsteps. The process begins with careful layout. I used a marking gauge and a sharp pencil to precisely mark the locations of the mortises, the square holes, and the tenons, the tongues that fit into them. The old saying, measure twice, cut once, is never more true than here. A small error in layout can lead to a wobbly table, and nobody wants that. I selected some thick, straight-grained walnut for the legs and stretcher. Each component was planed square and true by hand. This preparation is half the battle. When your parts are perfect, the joinery has a much better chance of coming together smoothly. Cutting the joinery is where the magic happens. I used a brace and bit to hog out the bulk of the waste from the mortises, then cleaned up the walls with a sharp chisel and a mallet. The sound of a chisel slicing through end grain is one of my favorites. For the tenons, I used a tenon saw to define the shoulders and cheeks, then refined the fit with a shoulder plane and a router plane. It's a slow back and forth process. You pare a bit, test the fit, and pare a little more. You're aiming for a perfect friction fit, snug enough to hold tight, but not so tight that it splits the wood when you drive it home. The final assembly is a moment of truth. With a bit of wood glue applied to the joints, I used a large wooden mallet to persuade the tenons into their mortises. The solid thwack as the shoulder of the tenon seats firmly against the leg is the sound of success. It's a beautiful thing to see a structure come together, held tight by nothing but friction and well-cut wood. This base would likely outlast me, and probably the table itself. It's a foundation built not just of wood, but of patience, precision, and a deep respect for the craft. It's a quiet rebellion against a disposable world. With the top smoothed and the base assembled, it was time for the final, most magical step, applying the finish. For a piece of wood this beautiful, my choice is always a natural oil. An oil finish doesn't sit on top of the wood like a plastic film of polyurethane. Instead, it soaks deep into the fibers, nourishing the wood from within. It enhances the natural color and makes the grain pop in a way that is almost three-dimensional. It's like the wood is finally taking a deep breath and showing you its true, vibrant self. It's the moment the wood truly comes alive, and it never gets old. I poured a generous amount of the oil onto the tabletop and began to work it in with a soft cloth. The transformation was immediate and breathtaking. The pale, dusty-looking walnut instantly turned a deep, rich chocolate brown. The swirling grain patterns, which were only faintly visible before, now leaped out with incredible depth and clarity. This is the payoff for all the hours of planning and scraping. You get to see the full, unadulterated beauty that was hiding just beneath the surface. I applied several coats, letting each one soak in and then wiping away the excess, building up a soft, satin sheen that feels as good as it looks. Once the oil had cured, I attached the top to the base. Even here, I avoided metal. I used traditional wooden buttons, which sit in grooves cut into the trestle. These buttons hold the top down securely, but also allow it to expand and contract with the changing seasons. This is a crucial detail. A massive slab of wood like this is a living, breathing thing. It will move, and if you try to lock it down with screws, it will crack and destroy itself. Working with wood means respecting its nature, and that includes its inevitable movement. Looking at the finished table, it's hard to believe it started as that rough, forgotten slab in the corner. It's now a functional piece of art, a centerpiece that will host conversations and meals for decades to come. Every time I run my hand over its smooth surface and feel the gentle waves of the live edge, I'll remember the quiet hours spent in the shop. I'll remember the scent of the walnut shavings and the satisfying heft of a well-balanced tool. This is the reward of hand tool woodworking. You don't just build a table, you build a relationship with the wood, and you pour a little bit of your own story into it. I encourage you to try it. Find a piece of wood and see what it wants to become, and please let me know what you might like to see me build next. The shop is always open,